Okay, in the last class I was talking about connectivity and I did two theorems based on connectivity, basically two important theorems. So the first theorem was said that if my graph is connected, then it must definitely have n minus 1 edges, where n is the number of vertices. So the minimum number of edges in a connected graph is n minus 1, where n is the number of vertices. So keep that in mind. And the second theorem was a sufficient condition to be a connected graph. That is, I had given you a statement, you can just go through it. So there were some conditions, and based on that condition, the graph will be connected. So today I'll be doing some exercises based on connectivity. So the first exercise is this. This is the first question. So the first question is very interesting. If a graph G contains exactly two vertices, of odd degree, So if a graph G contains exactly two vertices of odd degree, then show that there exists a path between these two vertices. So let me explain the question first, and then we will do the solution. The question says that suppose I have a graph G. So my graph G has exactly two vertices. Keep that in mind. So it may contain 100 vertices, but out of those 100 vertices, only two of them are there having odd degree. Okay, having odd degree. Then show that there exists a path between these two vertices. That means whenever my graph has exactly two vertices of odd degree, I can find a path between those two vertices. So this is a very nice thing, you see. Now, if the graph G is connected, it is definitely true. See, in the question they have not given whether the graph G is connected or disconnected. If the graph is connected, this is very trivial, because if the graph is connected, there will be a path between any two vertices, so hence between these two vertices as well. Okay, so in general we'll do it for when the graph G is not connected. It will have some components, and let's do it. Okay, so I'll first name these two vertices as U and V. So let U and V be the odd degree vertices in G. Suppose U and V are the two odd degree vertices in G. So I am calling, these are the only two odd degree vertices in G. So again I am repeating, if the graph G is connected, there is nothing to prove, keep that in mind. If the graph G is connected, there is nothing to prove, keep that in mind, because in a connected graph, you can find a path between any two pair of vertices. So in general, we assume that the graph is not connected. Then also there will be a path between these two vertices. You see how? So consider the component to which U belongs. So what I am assuming, let me name the component C. So consider the component C to which U belongs. So suppose if the graph is disconnected, right? If the graph is connected, there is nothing to prove. Again and again I'm telling you. Suppose that the graph is disconnected, then it will have some components. U will belong to one of the components. I'm assuming that let C be that component to which U belongs. So I have some component C where the vertex U belongs. I don't know where is V. Okay. So I will prove that V also belongs to the same component to which U belongs. I will tell you how. So what is my next target? I'm just assuming that a component C to which U belong. So U will belong to one of the components. I'm calling that component as C. My claim is V will also belong to C. I will tell you how. Let's see why V will also belong to C. Now C is so by definition of a component, C is connected. So now C is a connected subgraph of G. This fact I will use a bit later. Now you see, all the properties of a graph is also true for a subgraph. Keep that in mind. All the properties of a graph is also true for a subgraph. That is very obvious because subgraphs are also graphs. So what are the properties of graphs that we have done? We know sum of all the degree of vertices will be 2 times the number of edges. So this thing will also be true for a subgraph. We have also done the number of odd degree vertices in a graph is always even. If you remember, you have done this. The number of odd degree vertices in a graph is always even. So we will use this fact. You see how? We know that the number of odd degree vertices in a graph is even. We know this fact. In a graph, the number of odd degree vertices is always even. So now you understand my point. Because U and V are the only odd degree vertices because U and V are the only odd degree vertices, what can I say? It follows that V also belongs to C. I'll explain what I have done. See, I know in any graph the number of odd degree vertices is always even. This is also true for subgraphs because subgraphs are also graphs. I know that U belongs to the component C and C is a subgraph. And G has exactly 2 odd degree vertices and one of them already belongs to C. But C cannot have 1 odd degree vertices because that is a property of the graph that the odd degree vertices is always even. So V must also belong to C just because there are only these 2 odd degree vertices and no other. Am I clear with this fact? How can I say V belongs to C? Please tell me whether did you understand or no. Hence we are done. Why are we done? Because U and V both belong to the component C. And what is the definition of a component? It is a connected subgraph. That means U and V belong to a connected subgraph. That means there will be a path from U to V. And so U and V belong to the component C, and C is connected by definition of a component. Therefore, there exists a path from U to V. And this completes the solution to our question. Did you understand? So another exercise is this, exercise 2 from the connected graphs. A simple graph with n vertices and k components cannot have more than n minus k n minus k plus 1 by 2 edges. So this is another very nice theorem. I'll tell you, not theorem but exercise. So if you give me any simple graph, that means having no parallel edges or loops, containing n vertices first of all. Now this simple graph may be disconnected. This simple graph may be disconnected because I have already done the number of edges in a connected graph that cannot exceed n minus 1, right? But I am assuming that this graph is disconnected having k components. So if my graph has n vertices and k components, then that graph cannot have more than this many edges. So keep that in mind, okay? My graph having n vertices and k components cannot have more than this many edges. So let's do the solution to this question. So then there are many facts that will be used here. So let me first frame it. So let G be a simple graph with n vertices and k components. I'm calling the components as C1, C2, C. So I am assuming that this graph is a simple graph, and I'm naming that graph as G, having n vertices. I'm not giving any name to the vertices, but I'm giving name to the components. Suppose the components are C1, C2, Ck. Now let's count the number of vertices in each component. So let's call number of vertices in C1 is n1, number of vertices in C2 is n2, and so on. So let ni be the number of vertices in Ci for all I running from 1 incrementing by 1 up to k. So I am assuming that in each component Ci, in each component Ci, the number of vertices is Ni. So number of vertices in C1 is N1, number of vertices in C2 is N2, number of vertices in Ck is Nk. Do you know any relation between N1, N2, N3, Nk? Tell me if you can see a relation between N1, N2, Nk. Okay, doesn't matter. Then very good, very good. N1, N2, dot dot dot, Nk will be definitely N. This is very obvious because all the components are disjoint from each other by the definition of the components, you remember. So the number of components in C1 is N1, number of vertices in C1 is N1, dot dot dot, number of vertices in Ck is Nk, and the total number of vertices in G is N. So after summing all the vertices in each component, I should get the number of vertices in G. Or another way of writing this is summation Ni is I going from 1 up to K. This is N. This will be used a bit later, some equation number 1. So this fact I have now used. Now you see, because the graph G is a simple graph, each components are simple. Definitely, if the actual graph is the simple graph, the components or any subgraph must be simple. So what I'll use that fact now. Since each Ci is a simple graph, the maximum number of edges in Ci equals to, who can tell me what can be the maximum number of edges in Ci? Can you tell me? Study. The maximum number of edges in Ci is Ni minus 1 by 2. Just because this is the number of edges in a complete graph over n vertices. What is the maximum number of edges, or what is the number of edges in a complete graph? It is n minus 1 by 2, and that is the largest possible simple graph. Largest in the sense having maximum number of edges. Okay, so since Ci is a simple graph, then the maximum number of edges in Ci can be this. Did you now understand or no? So each component has got this many edges at the max. Maximum it can have this many edges. So hence the number of edges in G will be less or equals to after summing them, right? That means each component can have maximum this. So G can have maximum this I running from 1 up to K. This is K. Clear? Very obvious. Because I am summing the number of edges in each component. So number of edges in each component, I am adding them. So that is the maximum number of edges in G, because G is composed of these many components. So if I simplify this, so this is nothing but, I write it here, this is nothing but half goes outside. So I remain with summation Ni squares minus summation Ni. I running from 1 up to K, I running from 1 up to K. This is some equation 2. See, this was the target. I have to find the number of edges in G. See, cannot have more than this many edges. That means my target was to find the maximum number of edges in G. I know the maximum number of edges in G possible is this much. That is this much. But I have to put their values. So this value I already know, this I already know is n. I'll put here n a bit later. I will try to find the value of this quantity. If I can find the value of this quantity, we are done, and that will maximize the number of edges in G. Okay. So now the aim is to maximize, find the value of this. To find the value of this. Okay, let's do it. Now, n1 minus 1 plus n2 minus 1 plus dot 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 nk minus 1 equals to n minus k. Why? Very obvious. n1 minus 1 plus n2 minus 1 dot 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 nk minus 1. I am taking all the ni's together. So n1 plus n2 plus n3 plus n4 dot 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 nk. That is nothing but n, and minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 k time, that is minus k. So this quantity is nothing but this quantity. Okay, I'll square both sides. So this plus dot 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 this equals to n minus k whole square. Why I am squaring? Because my target was to find n1 square plus n2 square plus dot 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 nk square. Do you know the formula for a plus b plus c plus d plus e plus dot 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 etc. whole square? The formula is this, like it is n1 square a square plus b square plus c square and so on. What is the formula for a plus b plus c whole square? It is a square plus b square plus c square plus 2ab plus 2bc plus 2ca. That means similar here, plus 2 times this with this, this with this, dot dot dot, many more. Okay, so I will not write all of them. So the formula for a plus b plus c whole square is a square plus b square plus c square plus dot dot dot, and then 2ab, 2bc, 2ca, and all possible pairs. So the left hand side is this. I'll write the right hand side as it is. Just this can be written in a more formal manner. Summation ni minus 1 whole square, I running from 1 up to k. So from here to here I can write in this manner, and this can be written as 2 summation ni minus 1 nj minus 1 I running from 1 up to k, j running from 1 up to k. Hold on, I'll explain. But the problem is I should not get I and j to be different. Do that earlier. I not equals to j. So I am writing this pair, all possible pairs, in this manner. But I should also write one more condition. Instead of writing this condition, hold on, just a minute. A plus b plus c plus d and so on whole square is a square plus b square plus dot 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 plus anything square. So you have to first square each of them, then 2 times you have to take pair, this with this, this with this, this with this and so on, this with this with this and so on. This is what I have written it, right? And here square. Now I'm just converting this into summation notation. How? This is nothing but summation ni minus 1 whole square, right? As you can see, n1 minus 1 whole square plus n2 minus 1 whole square and so on. And this can be written like this. It is the product of ni minus 1 with nj minus 1. That's what I have written. But j should be more than I, because I have already written here 2. So j should be more than I, because n1 will go to n2, n1 will go to n3 and so on up to n1 will go with nk. Now when I is 2, I have already written n1 with n2. So I'll start with n2 with n3, n2 with n4 and so on. That is the reason I've written here like this. Just this is the thing. If you did not understand, please ask, I will explain. Now, this is definitely a positive quantity. This is definitely a positive quantity. So therefore, this will be less or equals to n minus k whole square. As simple as that, because this is a positive quantity. So this plus this was equal to this, but I am removing this quantity, then this will become less or equals to this. This is a non-negative quantity that I know. Okay, so if I am removing this, then this will be less or equals to this. Now again open the bracket, open the summation. This is nothing but summation I running from 1 up to k. Open the formula for a plus b whole square. You have done this in statistics, this kind of thing. A square minus 2ab plus b square. Let's see how good you are in statistics. Yes, I'm writing as it is. So I'll split the summation over each of the terms. So what is the first summation? Summation I running from 1 to k ni square. What is the second summation? So 2 can be taken outside the summation. So I am remaining with 2 times summation ni. 2 times summation ni. What is summation ni? You know summation ni is nothing but n. Because n1 plus n2 plus dot 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 nk is n. What is summation of 1? Who can tell me what will be here? I am also splitting this, n square plus k square minus 2nk. What is this quantity here? Sorry? What is here? Yes. Because you are good at stats. No, not k plus 1 by 2. It's just k. You are summing up 1 for every I. That means 1 plus 1 plus 1 up to k times, that is nothing but k. So see, from here I have got the estimate for ni square. So what is summation ni square? As you can see, this is less or equals to, no, I should have kept like this only. No need to open this, keep as it is, n minus k whole square. So this is n minus k whole square plus 2n minus k. This is some equation number 3. I wanted to get an estimation for summation ni square. I have got the estimation for summation ni square. This is the estimation. Use 3 and 1 in 2. So let me tell you, this is the estimate for ni square, summation ni square. So this was my aim to calculate the maximum number of edges in G. I'll put the value of summation ni square here. And what is summation ni? That also I know, that is n. I'll put here n. So put this value here. So the number of edges in G was basically less or equals to half summation ni square minus, it was n because summation ni is nothing but n, or I may write for the timing summation of up to k. Okay, up to k. Now just put their things, estimate. So this is less or equals to half. What was this estimate? It was n minus k whole square plus 2n minus k, and this was nothing but minus n. So what is this? Half n minus k whole square. 2n minus n is n minus k. So 2n minus n is n minus k. You may take n minus k as common. If I am taking n minus k as common, what am I getting? N minus k plus 1. And this was required to prove. So this is thus, you write the whole sentence, maximum number of edges in G, because this is less or equal to, so G cannot have more than this many edges. The maximum number of edges in G is n minus k plus 1 by, so this is my proof. So this was another very important theorem based on connectivity. Good enough. Okay. I wanted to do one more thing with you all. This completes connectivity. Okay, this completes connectivity. We will do more sums. We can do more sums based on connectivity, but I will not do any more sums. We have done enough sums on connectivity and enough theory on connectivity. Now, I would like to end this topic end this chapter by two important theorems based on bipartite graph. So we are again going back to bipartite graph. Bipartite graph. We'll end this topic by doing two theorems based on bipartite graph. The first theorem is this: a graph G is a bipartite graph if and only if. So see, this is a necessary and sufficient condition to be a bipartite graph. A graph G is a bipartite graph if and only if it does not contains any cycle of odd length. So this is a very nice theorem. Within few seconds you can determine whether the graph is bipartite or not. If my graph does not have any cycle of odd length, what is the meaning of cycle of odd length? I have already explained you this. Any cycle containing odd number of edges, that is meant by cycle of odd length. I have already discussed with this topic. So my graph will be bipartite if and only if it does not contain any cycle of odd length. So I will not be doing the proof of this theorem at this moment because I have to touch other topics as well. If time permits, I will definitely show you the proof of this theorem. It's big enough, but we have to do it if the time permits. Okay. So I'll just give you the application. So suppose I have some graph. So just by looking at it or just by using this theorem, I can tell you whether this graph is bipartite or not. This graph is not a bipartite graph because it has a cycle of odd length. You see, this is a cycle and its length is 3. 1, 2, 3 because I have used 3 edges. So this graph is not a bipartite graph according to this theorem. Not bipartite. Okay. Is this graph a bipartite graph? Let's see whether it has some cycle of odd length or no. This cycle, if I am considering, it is of even length, that's all right. This cycle is of even length. This cycle, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's also even length. So this does not contain any cycle of odd length. So this is a bipartite graph. Once it is bipartite, you can you can find the partite sets. You know how to find out the partite sets. There is no cycle of odd length. You can check because there I can see only 3 cycles, 1, 2 and 3, and no other cycle. Yeah, but if I draw a line something like this will no more be bipartite because you can see there is a cycle of odd length. So understood this theorem and its application. So I am skipping the proof of this one, but I will do it if the time permits because I cannot give so much time to this theorem because I have to do so many topics still remaining. So I will do it if time permits. Let me do another theorem based on bipartite. Then we will complete with this topic or this chapter. We can start a new chapter in the next class. So I am ending this session by 2 theorems on bipartite graph. Another theorem is this, theorem 2, which I should have done earlier itself. So the number of edges in a bipartite graph with n vertices is at most n square by 4. So this I should have done previously, but I could not do due to some reasons. Now I am doing it. So this is another theorem based on bipartite graph. It gives you the bound for the number of edges again. So you know that the number of edges in a complete graph is n minus 1 by 2. Okay, so we have this kind of thing. The number of edges in a complete bipartite graph is m into n, where m is in number of elements in the first partite set and n in the second one. But in any bipartite set, a bipartite graph, the maximum number of edges can be this. How can I prove it? It's very simple. I'll do the solution very quickly or the proof very quickly. Let G be that graph. Let G be, or G equals to VE. That means V is the number of, V is the vertex set, E is the edge set. Be a bipartite graph with number of elements in the vertex set is n. That is given in the question. Now, because the graph is bipartite, I can find a bipartition. So let V equals to V1 union V2 be a bipartition of G, or of V also you can write. That is by definition of a bipartite graph, the vertex set can be partitioned into the vertex set. If this is the vertex set V, the vertex set can be partitioned into 2 sets, V1 and V2, which are disjoint and their union is V. That is by definition of a bipartite graph. So let me assume the number of elements in the first partite set is X. So therefore, the number of elements in the second bipartite set is, can you tell me what is the number of elements in the second bipartite set? So that is very obvious. The number of vertices in the second partite set is n minus x, because the total number of edges, vertices is n and they are disjoint and their union is V. I can say this. Therefore, the number of edges in G is lesser or equals to, you see, what we know, the biggest bipartite set, biggest in the sense that consisting the maximum number of edges, can be m into n. We have done this. If the number of elements in the first partite set is m and the number of vertices in the second partite set is n, then the total number of edges in the complete bipartite graph is m into n. So if this graph is a complete bipartite graph, so the number of vertices, number of edges is this into this. If it is not complete, the number of edges will be less or equals to this. But it cannot exceed this number, this into this. Because the number of edges in a complete bipartite graph Kmn is m into n. So this concept I am using, the number of edges can maximum be this. Did you get my point? Now, this is a function of x. So let fx equals to xn minus x. We have to maximize this. Let's see what is the maximum value of this quantity for different values of x. For different values of x, let's see what is the maximum possible value of this. We can use maximum minimum. We know how to use maximum minima. So, or fx is nothing but nx minus x square. So, therefore, you find out the derivative. The derivative is derivative with respect to x, n minus 2x. The second derivative is minus 2. For maximum minima, we equate the first derivative with 0. That means what is the value of x I am getting? N by 2. And if I am putting n by 2 in the second derivative, I am getting minus 2, which is less than 0. Therefore, fx is maximum. Fx is maximum when x equals to n by 2, right? So what is the maximum value of this? The maximum value of this is achieved at the point n by 2. So let's find the maximum value. So I will just write it down very quickly. Therefore, the maximum value of fx is, so what was fx? It was x into n minus x, but maximum value is achieved at n by 2. So x into n minus x. X is nothing but n by 2. What am I getting this? N by 2 into n by 2, n square by 4. Thus, number of edges in G, it was less or equals to x into n minus x, but that is less or equals to n square by 4. So the number of edges in G is less or equals to n square by 4. Understood or no? We have talked about walks, path, trails, cycles, circuits, then so many things, connectivity, components, some theorems on connectivity, some theorems on bipartite graphs. So this was a very rich chapter consisting of so many things, and this chapter will be useful to study so many other problems a bit later. In the next class, I will start with a new chapter. So thank you. That's all for today.